The night air was bitter, sharp enough to bite at exposed skin. On the outskirts of Brindle Creek, a small, forgotten town swallowed by forest and fog, a German shepherd limped through the underbrush, his paw dragging, whimpering low but urgent. Behind him, the sound of approaching footsteps broke the eerie silence. Men with intentions far from kind. But the dog didn't run aimlessly. Every step, every painful stagger, seemed calculated, almost desperate to lead someone somewhere. Somewhere that would unravel secrets the town had buried for decades. And as he disappeared into the shadows, even the bravest hearts would soon question what justice really meant. The forest had a voice of its own that night. Each snapping twig underfoot sounded like a gunshot, each rustle of leaves like whispers from a crowd hiding just beyond the trees. The German shepherd, black with streaks of ash-colored fur, moved with a limping determination, his eyes darting back over his shoulder. Pain lanced through his paw, a raw reminder of yesterday's encounter with a hunter's trap. But he ignored it. He had a purpose. Behind him, 3 men trudged through the mud, their breath visible in the freezing air. One of them, Carson Hale, adjusted the flashlight in his gloved hand. "There!" he hissed, pointing. The dog paused, ears twitching. "You think he's just wandering?" muttered the second man, a lanky, twitchy fellow named Darrell. His eyes never left the shadows, scanning for movement that could be a threat. "Wandering." Carson snapped, a low anger in his voice. "He's leading us. That dog knows something. And I want to know what." The third, a quieter man with a hood pulled low over his face, didn't speak. He followed silently, letting the other 2 argue. His name was Thomas, and he had been in Brindle Creek long enough to know that secrets didn't like to be disturbed. But curiosity, like a disease, was impossible to resist. The German shepherd limped past the skeletal remains of what once had been a hunting cabin. Its windows were smashed, the door hanging from a single hinge. A scent hit him, sharp and metallic. His nostrils flared, and he hesitated. Something was buried under the rotten floorboards. Something alive, perhaps something scared. Carson's voice cut through the tension. "I'm telling you, we don't have time to play games. That dog, he's carrying us straight to it." He took a step forward, and the dog bolted, half run, half stagger, his injured paw dragging through the mud. "Wait!" Thomas shouted, but Carson was already lunging after the dog, boots sinking into the wet earth. Darrell stumbled, catching himself against a tree. "Are you insane?" The chase led them deeper into the woods. Branches clawed at their faces, roots threatened to trip them, but still the German shepherd pressed on, almost ignoring his injury. There was a rhythm to his movement, a stubbornness that suggested he knew the ground better than any of them. Finally, he stopped at the edge of a small clearing. The moonlight barely reached this far, filtered through the skeletal branches of towering pines. In the center lay a shallow depression in the soil, freshly disturbed. The dog crouched over it, growling low, lips curled back to reveal teeth white as bone. Carson froze. What is that?" The dog's growl deepened. Slowly, almost reluctantly, a small figure emerged from the dirt. A young girl, maybe 12 or 13, covered in mud and frost, coughing violently, her eyes wide with terror. Her name, Thomas realized instinctively, was something he would never forget, but he didn't know it yet. "She's alive," Darrell whispered, his voice shaking. The girl's eyes locked on the German shepherd. Relief washed over her face as she tried to crawl forward. The dog barked sharply, warning them not to approach too quickly. Carson ignored it. "Come on, kid, we're going to get you out of here." The girl flinched at his voice. Something about the way Carson said, "We set her on edge." The dog stepped protectively in front of her, growling. Thomas held up his hands. "Wait, let her trust us first." Carson scoffed. "Trust? We're not here to babysit. She could be the reason we find what we came for." And that's when the forest seemed to shift. Shadows pulled unnaturally at the edge of the clearing. Movement, subtle but deliberate. Eyes, watching, waiting. "Did you hear that?" Thomas whispered. Carson waved him off. "Probably an owl or something. Focus." But Thomas knew better. There was a presence here, Something human, but wrong. Maybe someone who had been watching the girl, waiting for this moment. The girl whispered hoarsely, "Please, don't let them take me." Carson frowned. "Who's them?" "Kid, we don't have—" "I said, don't." The girl's voice rose, panicked. Her words cut through the cold night, revealing the fear that had taken root over days of hiding. She wasn't just afraid of the woods or the elements. She was afraid of something worse, something hidden in Brindle Creek itself. The German shepherd barked twice, sharp, commanding, then took a step forward, nudging her back gently. He was telling them all, silently, that the world was not as it seemed here. Thomas knelt slowly, hands open, making no sudden movements. "It's okay," he said softly. "We're not going to hurt you." The girl flinched but didn't move away this time. The dog studied him for a long moment, then sat, tail thumping lightly against the ground, a hesitant approval. Carson muttered something under his breath, clearly annoyed that control was slipping from him. Darrell, on the other hand, was mesmerized. He'd never seen a dog with such intelligence, such awareness. "It's like he knows things," Darrell whispered, almost reverently. Thomas nodded. "He does. He's protecting her for a reason, and I think he wants us to follow him." For the next hour, they moved cautiously through the woods. The dog led them along narrow trails that twisted unpredictably, over streams that hissed under the moonlight, past abandoned cabins and silent clearings that smelled of decay and old fire. The girl clung to Thomas, shivering, whispering fragments of a story that didn't yet make sense. Someone named Victor, a hidden ledger, people in town who couldn't be trusted. The woods weren't just woods anymore. They were a labyrinth of secrets. Every step revealed signs of previous life. Discarded shoes, broken toys, makeshift beds. But no people. And yet, Thomas could feel eyes watching from the shadows. Finally, the dog stopped at the edge of a ridge. Below lay a narrow valley, the town's forgotten river cutting through it like a silver scar. On the opposite bank, a small, derelict warehouse stood, its windows black and empty, the kind of place where things were hidden and never meant to be found. The girl trembled. That's where they keep it. The ledger. Victor, Her voice broke, choked by fear. Thomas looked at Carson. "We can't just rush in. We don't know who's waiting." Carson's jaw tightened. "And we can't leave her here either. That dog. He wouldn't have led us this far unless—" He didn't finish the thought, but the implication was clear. Darrell swallowed hard. Do you think the dog knew all along?" Thomas didn't answer. He looked at the German shepherd, whose eyes reflected the moonlight like burning coals. There was an intelligence there, a sense of morality that no human in Brindle Creek had. The dog had chosen its path, and somehow it had chosen them. The first chapter ended not with action, but with a terrible, pressing anticipation. Below them, the river whispered, the warehouse waited, and the shadows of Brindle Creek seemed to pulse with secrets. Something was coming, something old, and maybe deadly. As Thomas guided the girl to a safer spot, Carson muttered again, almost to himself, "This dog, he's the only one who knows the truth." And for the first time that night, Thomas realized he believed it. The ridge loomed over the valley like a silent judge. Below, the river gleamed silver in the moonlight, its icy surface whispering secrets as it wound past abandoned warehouses and overgrown lots. The German shepherd crouched low, ears pointed forward, every muscle coiled and ready. His eyes flicked between the girl and Thomas, almost as if he understood the danger better than anyone else there. Thomas crouched beside the girl, wrapping his jacket tightly around her shoulders. "We're almost there," he whispered. "Stay quiet and stay behind me." The girl nodded, shivering, her eyes fixed on the warehouse. Victor, he won't let anyone take it," she murmured. "Take what?" Thomas asked softly. She swallowed hard, voice barely audible. "The ledger. Everything about what they did to people who disappeared. It's all there. And if Victor finds out anyone knows, he'll kill us." Thomas glanced at Carson and Darrell. Carson's face was pale but determined, the way of a man who'd never learned to back down from a fight. Darrell looked like he might vomit, but his eyes never left the dog, whose growls cut through the night now and then, as if to remind them they were trespassing in someone else's domain. "All right," Carson said finally, trying to sound authoritative. "We move fast. In and out. No mistakes." The German shepherd barked sharply, breaking the tension, then darted ahead, signaling they should follow. Thomas hesitated. The dog wasn't leading them blindly. It was guiding them along a path that would keep them out of sight, avoiding clearings and broken boards that could creak and give away their position. The valley was narrow, the ground slippery from frost. Every step felt like walking on the edge of a knife. Thomas noticed remnants of the past, rusted cans, scattered papers, footprints older than yesterday, but no sign of Victor's men yet. It was as though the forest itself was holding its breath. Finally, they reached a thick stand of trees directly above the warehouse. From here, they could see the entire building. Its roof partially caved in, walls streaked with moss and rot. The ledger, Thomas realized, would be somewhere inside, hidden but not too well. "Looks abandoned," Darrell whispered, though the tension in his voice betrayed him. "Abandoned?" Carson spat. "Nothing this valuable is ever abandoned. He's waiting inside. Or someone is." The German shepherd padded silently to the edge of the tree lean, sniffing at the entrance. His hackles rose as he growled low, warning them of movement in the shadows. A figure appeared at one of the broken windows. A man, tall, broad-shouldered, face hidden under a hood. He froze, scanning the tree lean, then disappeared again. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Victor wasn't just here. He had been expecting someone, or at least was aware that someone might come. Thomas motioned for Carson and Darrell to stay low. "We wait," he whispered. "We watch. Let him show himself." Minutes passed, stretching longer than any clock should allow. The girl clutched Thomas's arm, shaking. "He knows we're here," she said. Her voice was trembling. "I can feel it." "Calm," Thomas whispered, though his own nerves tightened like a coil. "We move on my mark." Then the dog barked once, sharp, decisive. A shadow moved at the warehouse entrance. Victor, or one of his men, stepped out, scanning the ridge with a long flashlight. Carson's fist tightened around the crowbar he had picked up earlier. "I can take him," he muttered. Thomas grabbed his arm. "No, not yet. Wait." The German shepherd growled, low and menacing. It was a sound that seemed to carry both warning and intelligence. Victor froze, eyes narrowing, sensing something more than just humans above him. "Look," the girl whispered. "That's the basement door. That's where it is. The ledger, it's down there." Thomas's pulse quickened. The basement had once been used for storage, now a cage for secrets. Whoever went down there risked being trapped, discovered, or worse. Carson stepped forward despite Thomas's warning. "We don't have time for this. He's not leaving, and neither are we." The dog barked again, more urgently, then darted down the slope, slipping on mud but recovering. Without hesitation, Thomas followed, the girl close behind, Darrell and Carson trailing as best they could. The descent was treacherous. Each step risked a fall. Each rustle of leaves sounded like a shout. And then, suddenly, they were at the warehouse entrance. The door creaked ominously as Carson pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick, musty, a mix of rot, dust, and something metallic. Blood, maybe, Thomas thought, but he couldn't be sure. Shadows clung to every corner, and the dog advanced cautiously, ears forward, nose twitching. Then they heard it, a soft shuffle from the basement. Victor's presence was confirmed. Carson lifted a crowbar. "We go in together," he hissed. "No one leaves till we have it." Thomas shook his head. "We follow the dog. He knows the path." The basement stairs were narrow, almost a ladder in width, slick with moss. One misstep, and they'd fall into darkness. The German shepherd led, careful, deliberate, guiding them through the shadows. At the bottom, the basement opened into a room filled with crates and old furniture. A single lamp flickered, revealing a safe in a corner. And next to it, Victor. He turned sharply, eyes like ice. "You're too late," Victor said, voice calm but lethal. "The ledger's gone." Thomas's stomach dropped. "Gone." Victor smirked. "Yes." taken by someone cleverer than you realize. And now, he motioned subtly. 2 men stepped out from behind crates. The girl gasped. No, no. The German shepherd growled, low and menacing, stepping protectively in front of her. Victor's eyes flicked to the dog, and for the first time, he hesitated. You've underestimated him, Thomas said softly, realizing the dog wasn't just protecting the girl. It was leading them, making them part of a plan they couldn't fully understand yet. Suddenly, one of Victor's men lunged. The dog reacted instantly, snapping, teeth sinking into the man's arm. Chaos erupted. Carson swung his crowbar, Darrell tried to grab a crate for cover, and Thomas shielded the girl, heart hammering. Through the chaos, the dog nudged the girl toward a hidden trapdoor under a loose rug. She hesitated. Thomas encouraged her. Go, now. As she disappeared through the trapdoor, the dog leapt at the second assailant, snarling with ferocity that stunned even Thomas. Victor cursed, raising a pistol, but the dog's speed was impossible. A blur of black fur, moving between shadows, between danger and salvation. And in that moment, Thomas realized they were not just here to retrieve the ledger. They were part of something much larger, something that would change everything they thought they knew about Brindle Creek. The basement erupted in chaos, shouts, the sound of struggle, the metallic clang of objects hitting the floor. And somewhere above, the moonlight fell on the ridge, indifferent to the struggle unfolding below, as though it had seen this kind of human desperation countless times before. Through it all, the German shepherd remained focused, strategic, guarding the girl, guiding her through every danger. It was not just a dog. It was a protector, a guide, and perhaps the only conscience in a place where everyone else had forgotten what morality felt like. Thomas watched, heart hammering. As the shadows consumed the basement, the dog's growls echoing in the stone walls. They had survived this far, but the ledger, the girl, and the secrets of Brindle Creek were still very much alive, and the danger had only just begun. The basement smelled of cold metal and wet earth, a mix that made Thomas's stomach churn. The German shepherd growled, muscles taut, eyes glowing in the dim light. Victor's men lay sprawled, groaning, while the girl huddled behind crate, trembling but alive. The ledger, fragile, worn, and hiding the sins of Brindle Creek, was nowhere in sight, yet Thomas knew it was closer than anyone realized. Where is it? Carson demanded, rage sharpening every word. Where's the damn ledger? Victor stepped from the shadows, a faint smirk curling his lips. Looking for this? He held up the ledger, its cover scratched and stained. But it's not yours to take. Not yet. Thomas's eyes narrowed. Then why let us even come this far? Victor laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Because I wanted to see if you were clever enough to survive, to make choices. Most people in Brindle Creek don't last past curiosity. His gaze flicked to the German shepherd, which growled low, every hair on its back raised. And your little friend, he's exceptional. But even exceptional creatures have limits. The girl's eyes widened. He's not just a dog. He saved me. Victor's smirk faltered, just slightly. Yes, but that only delays the inevitable. Before anyone could react, the dog leapt, fast in the shadow, knocking Victor off balance. Carson charged, crowbar raised, but Thomas held him back. No, let the dog guide this. It was instinct, pure and uncalculated. The dog darted toward the trapdoor where the girl had hidden earlier. Victor lunged, trying to block the path, but the dog sidestepped with uncanny agility, snapping at his arm. The ledger slipped from Victor's grip and fell near the girl. She snatched it up, clutching it to her chest. Go! Thomas shouted. The girl hesitated. I can't leave you. You will, Thomas said firmly. The ledger is more important. You have to survive. You have to expose everything. Reluctantly, she slid to the trapdoor, the dog following to ensure her safety. Thomas turned to face Victor, chest heaving. You're reckless, Victor said, retrieving a pistol from his waistband. Brave, but reckless. Thomas swallowed, the weight of fear pressing down. Maybe, but we're not alone. Darrell stepped forward, trembling but resolute. I'm not backing down either. Carson growled, stepping to Thomas's side. We finish this or none of us get out. Victor's eyes narrowed, and for the first time, Thomas noticed hesitation. The subtle shift of a man who believed in control but faced unpredictability. The German shepherd barked from above, echoing through the basement, a chilling reminder of the loyalty and cunning it possessed. The fight was sudden and brutal. Victor swung at Thomas, pistol raised, but Carson blocked him with the crowbar. The dog leapt onto Victor's back, teeth sinking into his jacket, forcing him to drop the gun. Darryl shoved crates, creating obstacles, giving Thomas a chance to wrestle Victor into the shadows. Amid the struggle, the ledger slipped from the girl's hands as she tried to pass it to the dog, but the German shepherd nudged it back, carefully balancing it with his nose until she could retrieve it. Every second felt eternal, the air thick with tension, fear, and the metallic tang of adrenaline. Finally, Victor stumbled, caught by his own weight and the dog's relentless assault. Thomas grabbed the pistol, pressing it into Victor's side. "It's over. You're done." Victor's smirk was gone, replaced by a cold fury. "You think this changes anything? People like me, we always come back." Thomas's hands shook. "Not today." The police sirens wailed in the distance, a faint glow cutting through the basement's darkness. Someone had seen the commotion. The ledger's importance had tipped the scales. Victor's men attempted to flee, but the dog intercepted them, barking and snapping, leaving them frozen until backup arrived. Hours later, in the cold light of dawn, Thomas, Carson, and Darryl emerged from the warehouse. The girl clutched the ledger to her chest, her face pale but resolute. The German shepherd, paws caked in mud, formatted, sat beside her, tail wagging faintly but eyes still sharp, as if watching for the next shadow. Carson exhaled deeply. "We actually did it. Somehow we did it." Thomas didn't respond. His eyes lingered on the dog, who had led them through danger, chaos, and moral uncertainty. He had trusted an animal more than a man, and that trust had saved lives. The girl spoke softly. He led me here, saved me, and helped us all." Thomas nodded. "Yes, he did. And maybe that's enough for now." Victor was in custody. Silence for the moment, but the ledger held the truth, enough to expose corruption and violence that had festered in Brindle Creek for decades. Yet even as the town woke to the consequences, Thomas realized the quiet truth. The dog's loyalty and courage had shown them the human failings around them more clearly than any revelation in the ledger. They walked back toward the ridge, the girl and the dog leading the way, each step heavy with exhaustion, but also relief. Carson and Darryl trailed silent, each lost in thought about the fragile nature of trust, courage, and morality. At the edge of the forest, Thomas stopped, watching the dog nuzzle the girl's hand. "You know," he said quietly, "sometimes the most loyal heart doesn't belong to a person at all." The girl smiled faintly, a tear tracing her cheek. "I'll never forget him." Thomas nodded. "Neither will I." As the sun rose over Brindle Creek, the mist lifted slowly, revealing a town forever changed. The ledger exposed the truth, but the quiet hero, the German shepherd, remained unsung, a shadow among shadows, loyal beyond words, guiding those who could not navigate the darkness alone. And in that quiet morning, Thomas felt something rare. Hope, not the loud kind, but the small, steady kind that survives even in the harshest places, carried by the courage of one faithful dog and humans who finally learned to follow him.